Everyone. Welcome to the session today. We're delighted to have you here with us. My name's Sally Forsyth. I'm a marketing manager at Mesmer and I also support the Quality Professionals Awards. I'm delighted to be joined today by my colleague at Mesmer, Carol Loader. Carol is one of the founders at Mesmer. She's our COO and happens to be one of the judges of the Quality Professionals Awards. So Carol's come along to share her expertise with us today. So the session is for anybody who is considering making a nomination, either for yourself, or a colleague, a group or initiative, and nominating somebody for an award is a very special thing to do. So we know you just want to make the best submission you can. So we thought we'd put together a briefing session to demystify the process a little, share what we can, involve one of the judges and ask them from the, I was going to say the horse's mouth, but I don't think that's an appropriate way to describe Carol, from the judge's mouth, what the judges are looking for. So Carol, given that introduction, could you just say a few words about yourself and your experience of the first Quality Professionals Awards as a judge?
I can, yes. Yeah, really pleased that everybody could join us today. The QPA Awards, the Quality Professional Awards, is really quite close to all of our hearts here at Mesmer. I think that, you know, spending sort of 30 plus years as a quality professional in the education and employability space, I think the awards themselves, quite frankly, last year were very emotional. I think that, you know, a lot of the time there's lots of award ceremonies that run across the sector currently, and I think this QPA Awards is quite unique because there are a lot of hidden heroes in the sector, in the guise of our lovely quality teams and quality professionals that we work with. So yes, it was very emotional. There were some fantastic stories, some great journeys, and quite frankly, it was just a really great celebration of the skills in the room, lots of experience in the room. So I'm absolutely delighted that, one, I'm going to be a judge again this year. It's fantastic, but also to sort of be there to help celebrate again with a lovely crowd of people.
Exactly, I couldn't agree with you more. So what we'll do today, I'm not sure whether we'll need the full time, but this is just the sum up of what we're hoping to get through in the session. So we'll just go back to basics a little bit, think about, you know, the reasons for the nomination, so why you might want to consider making a nomination for the QPAs. We'll have a look at the categories that are involved. We'll briefly introduce you to some of the judges. We'll go over to Carol and a bit about crafting the nomination and her tips for the nomination itself, and then how to prepare if shortlisted, because there are some steps after there. And then we will do a Q&A. So you'll see in the chat that you can be feeding your questions into the chat all the time. We'll keep an eye on that.
No, audio's gone, Sally.
Has it gone completely?
Can you still hear me? There we go. You're back now.
Very strange. Yeah, it said the internet connection's got an issue. Then I just had a message. Keep an eye on that for me and let me know if it goes off again, please. Okay, we'll keep going and we'll see how we go.
No problem.
Okay, so you probably are here because you've already considered the benefits of nominations, but I think that there are some things to highlight just as we're setting off today. So from an individual point of view, so if you're considering making a nomination for an individual, what we've seen is just how, I mean, I think the rationale behind the awards was that quality compliance professionals aren't always great at showcasing their own achievements. So these awards really do provide an opportunity for people who don't usually have one to showcase what they do in their work and how they go above and beyond that, gain recognition for that. We've seen people putting the Quality Professionals Awards nomination and finalists and winners into their CVs or onto their LinkedIn profiles. So it just gives them an opportunity to really showcase their skills and achievements and boost their career. Everybody that gets nominated or is nominated will have a nominee badge that they can display on LinkedIn, for example. So it's really as much as we can do to champion them and their success. Benefits from initiatives, so celebrate your team in exactly the same way, also inspire others in exactly the same way, and promote those good practices as a team. And the impact of winning is the reputational enhancement, it's opening new opportunities, it's making new connections. And if you've had the chance to listen to the Speaking of Excellence podcast, you'll have heard those connections being made and the impact of that in lots more detail. So I'd encourage you to go along and have a listen to a few of those and just see, just hear that from the people that have been involved in the awards last year and the impact that that's having for them. And then the wider impact, so the ripple effect, is the benefits that we see for learners and job seekers. So in sharing that good practice, we're already seeing, you know, that transfer of good practice of information, tools and tips, and sharing, just the impact that that's then having for the people that we work with every day, you know, the learners and the job seekers. And that's really the legacy of the Quality Professionals Awards that we've hoped to achieve. So as Lois Calvert from Multiply says there on the right hand side, it really is opening the doors and it's improving quality across the board, and that's coming from the people that are involved in the awards themselves. So we're absolutely delighted with that particular element of the response. So just to flag up there, speaking of excellence, do go along to your podcast app that you prefer, whether that's YouTube, Spotify, or Apple, and go along and listen to some of those, because they really are excellent and they give you an idea about the kinds of people who are involved in the awards and their stories. So there are 11 categories to nominate to. The outstanding contribution to quality improvement category that you can see in red highlighted in the middle is a category that you can't nominate for because it's taken from all of the finalists. So the nomination for the finalists and for the winners will be considered within that particular category. What you'll see on the screen there is that some of the categories are for individuals, such as Rising Star and Leader and Quality Champion, and that could be as a quality category or a compliance category. So there are a Compliance Leader of the Year category. There's also a Compliance Professional of the Year. Some of the categories, such as the Initiative and Collaboration, are about activities and events and projects that people have been working on together across within organizations, but also cross organizations. And then you've got the team categories as well. So they're all available online. You've probably seen them. We'll share the links with you, of course, as well. For many of the awards, 2 awards will be given. So most of the awards have been given. They've had an award for employability and one for further education, except for quality team, which, because of the volume of different nominations that were made, it felt fairer to split that into a colleges category and a category for apprenticeship providers and employability providers. So when all the nominations come in, we'll have a look to see if it's worth splitting the nominations. So we've given out 2 awards, and we'll make a judgment based on how to do that, how best to do that, just so that the people that are within the nominations, the nominations that are made, get the best fairest opportunity to be considered for an award in terms of the competition within there. So, but that's the categories themselves. The detailed descriptions are all available online, and we'll have a look at one in a moment. In terms of the timeline, so nominations are open until the 21st of March. Shortlisting will take place soon after that. The shortlisting process is really to ratify the nominations, to make sure they fit into the same categories. There was a few last year that came through that we've asked to move into a different category just because they fit better in terms of stood a better chance of being more successful in a different category. So we'll consider those things. So that's like a ratification process as much as anything else. Then it goes through to judges. There's a step in between there where once the shortlists are made, we'll invite everybody. So at the initial stages, we'll invite everybody to come and take part in a video session with us. And so really the detail of the nomination, a lot of the detail is considered, is taken through that process, and we'll explain what that means in a moment. The finalists are then announced in May before the award ceremony in June, and the tickets will be available from the point at which the finalists are announced. So if you're a finalist, you can come along to the event as well. So that's the key timeline. So in terms of nominating, then if you head along to the website, so I'm just going to switch over so I can show you that in real time. So if I'm in the website now, I'd go into the categories. I'd see all the categories there. So we'll pick on this first one, which is Rising Star of the Year. At the top of that, you have a category descriptor. And then for each of the categories, there are 4 questions to respond to. So every category has 4 questions. To make a nomination, you click on the link. It'll also tell you a little bit about the entry requirements as well for that particular category. To make a nomination, you click on a link and it'll take you through to the form. A little bit more detail there in terms of the process. So an email will be sent once a nomination has been received. And then finalists will be announced on the LinkedIn page during week commencing the 5th of May. We will let people know they've been nominated. We won't disclose the name of the nominee, and then we will go about inviting people in for those. I don't want to call them interviews. They're called video sessions. We don't call them interviews, so we don't scare some people off. But they're a conversation between us and the nominees.
It's a chat.
It's a chat. It's a chat.
Mm-hmm.
So in terms of the form itself, some simple questions at the top. The first section is for the person making the nomination. So this is your name, not the person, not the nominee, your details up here and your organisation, and then who are you nominating comes underneath there. So if it's a team, for example, put the name of the team in and then add the names of the individuals within there. Their organisation and one email address where we can get in touch with the nominees and invite them in for the chat. And then underneath there, we have select which provider type, which sector the team or person works in. And then beneath there, you've got the category. So you select your category and you'll see the questions underneath. Dead straightforward form. You've got between 200 and 300 words per question. So compare that to the questions in here, respond to the questions in the boxes, and then just press send. Now, in terms of the nomination form itself, one of the questions that has come through actually this week is, will have the opportunity to submit evidence with the nomination? So if you think about the nomination as being like a brief introduction with impact, really clear impact, so like a summarized version of your nomination, and then the details, so any evidence, obviously be clear about any examples if you can fit them in, but you'll also have the opportunity to go into that in a little bit more detail and share some of that evidence during the nomination videos, the actual conversations themselves. So this is really the first step in the process. So the roles are covered in the category description. So it could be that it could be specifically for IQAs, managers, operational staff, senior leaders. So look out for that. The sectors are FE and employability. Locations, UK and Ireland. We have had interest from beyond that. So we're just holding that for now, but we're just seeing what comes through. But we've had some interest outside the UK and Ireland, but the focus of the awards is the UK and Ireland. Don't forget to put the contact information in for nominees so we can make sure we invite them in for their video chats. And then we mentioned the word count on there as well, and make a note of the deadline. So the showcase videos, that's a nice way of describing it. Showcase videos are a chat. They'll be come along, you'll be asked a few questions, but also the conversation. It is a very quite casual conversation in some ways because you can steer the conversation in the right direction. You'll be invited, the nominees will be invited to them by email, and they'll be recorded and then they'll be shared with the judges. So all of the judges for that category will receive a link to watch the video in a private space, and then they can go in and watch that video, and it forms part of the nomination. And it isn't that scary because you can see on the screen there all of the people have got happy smiley faces, and it really is a lovely part of the process. It gives people, like I say, the opportunity to share more about what they do, and it really brings the nominations to life. So we were delighted with the videos last year. Okay, next section. We just wanted to highlight who the judges were. So I'm not sure every one of them, because I think there's a few more have been confirmed since this was put together. So we've got judges from across the sector. There are some quite high-profile names amongst them. There is an international presence in there as well. So we've got people from across the employability and further education sector, and we're absolutely delighted with the range and the expertise that we have, and the presence that we have of those individuals, and many of whom come along to the awards ceremony on the day and take part in it. So you can see this on the website as well. If you go over to the website, you'll be able to have a look and see who's involved in the judging process. So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to hand over to our judge, Carol, who is going to give you a few minutes on her nomination tips and how to put your nomination together.
Thank you, Sally, that's great. So we're just going to really focus on a few things, focusing on the award criteria, telling a compelling story, making your nomination stand out, and very much using clear language and structure. So really not much from me, but hopefully some useful tips. So when you focus on the awards criteria, I'd like you to carefully review the specific criteria of the category that you're nominating in, and just check to make sure that there's a sensible match between the things that you are actually trying to articulate within those answers. So very much align your nomination to the requirements. And I know sometimes that might sound quite obvious, but just constantly going back and referring back to what the nomination focus is all about can help. And also maybe asking colleagues within your organisations to maybe, those colleagues that might be able to read that nomination and just give it a little bit of sense check for you. So there aren't many criteria. You've seen the form there. We've tried to keep that form fairly straightforward and simple. So you saw the 4 questions on the rising star that Sally showed you there before. But there's room enough to be able to articulate and tell a story. So ultimately, you're aiming to demonstrate how the nominee meets or exceeds the expected expectations within the criteria. So that's your main aim. So obviously focus on the nominee's journey. So when you're telling a compelling story, it's about the challenge that was faced, what actions were taken, and very much impact based as well. So from a quality assurance and quality professional perspective, if you just pop your lens, your QA lens over your nomination form, and just think about how you would want to receive this when you were if you were reading this, for example, as an assessor. Does it actually match that criteria? Is it very clear that it's talking about either a particular individual or a team or a collaboration? So where's the context and focus? Use specific examples, real life scenarios to demonstrate the nominee's contributions, whether that be an individual or team, for example, to very much tell that story. And I quite often sort of think about the STAR concept of articulate the situation, what was the challenge and task in hand, what action was taken, and then very much finishing off with that. This is the result, this is the impact that it's had on whether that be your learners or your job seekers. Sprinkle it with facts, figures. I love trends. Trends is a great one for me, being able to actually establish in a very, very short space of time whether there's any distance travelled in terms of, that upward trend of improvement. And quotes as well. If you've got some really great quotes that you want to include, it's great to hear the voice of your stakeholders within your nominations. So when we say make it stand out, for example, if you are doing a nomination for a leadership, then make sure that it's the leadership skills that that you want to draw out. So make sure that you emphasize the nomination category: leadership, collaboration, relationships, and the impact on, and I'll keep saying that, the impact on your learners and job seekers is ever so important. Where possible, demonstrate a before and after to help articulate, that journey and that development, which is really useful. And I think in terms of structure, we've all seen it, haven't we? For those of you that are sitting on the call today that have maybe either been an IQA or have been in the quality role for some time, the amount of assessed work that we've maybe looked at where somebody's trying to demonstrate like competency against a particular criteria, and then they're continually using the reference we. And as assessors, as IQAs, as QAs, we go back and say, what do you mean by we? Do you mean that you did that, or did the team do that? So really think about that structure of emphasizing, was it Sally that particularly made that area for development and improvement? Was it a particular team? So just make it clear that the less use of we and more I and the team is very much more useful to us as judges, because then we can really understand the impact that particular nominee has had on the activity in hand. That's particularly important, where maybe you are nominating an individual that's worked as part of a larger initiative. You need to really draw out actually what was it that they did that makes that nomination so special. We often work in teams. We don't work alone in quality assurance. So there's a couple of links there that Sally's provided. So check out august.com. That has some really useful tips and tricks in. So what makes a really great award submission is a one that's useful to read. You can also go to the I think it's podcast 55 of the Beyond the Bio, How to Enter Awards by Rachel Cook. So that's another resource that you can draw on to give you some tips on the style and how to write things. I think just finally from me, it's about impact, impact. We live and breathe this, don't we, as quality professionals in the education and employability sector. It's asking yourself constantly, if you're going to write a sentence, just constantly say, so what? What difference is that making to your learners, your job seekers, and your stakeholders that work with you? So the judges are looking for exceptional examples within the nominations. So just make sure that you've got a well-rounded submission where the impact is extremely clear, that you sprinkle it with your facts, your figures, and your trends. And you can make really good utilisation of quotes to reinforce the message that you're trying to make. So that's it from me, Sal. I'll hand back over to you.
That's great, Carol. Thank you. And you're right. I think you're right. Sometimes it seems quite obvious, the things that you have to do, but I think just going back to those tips and those strategies for making a good nomination is worth doing before you set about it. So that's brilliant. Thank you.
It's quite a tight word count. It's a generous word count, but it is a word count nevertheless.
Yeah.
So it's get everything down, jot it down on a piece of paper in terms of the key messages that you want to say, and then try and formulate it into a very impactful statement.
Yeah, because I know that lots of people are very passionate about what they do as well. So the temptation, you could probably write an awful lot, couldn't you? And then the temptation is that you've got to try and get it down. So we are going to take any questions, and we can cover anything you want in that. We've left it quite open in terms of what you might want to ask us. So that's up to you guys. If you want to pop anything into the chat, please do so. What I might do while we're on is just head over to the FAQ section on the website. Because we've last year we put some FAQs on, but we've refined this because as we've learned from the first section, what first event, what are the things that people are asking for information on as they're making the nomination. So it covers everything from when's the deadline, all the stuff that we've been through in the session today. But then some of the other elements, which is like how will the Outstanding Practice Award be taken, those links there for the resources that Carol mentioned are in there as well. A little bit about the detail, some things about conflict of interest are in there as well. So, and the process in terms of the communication afterwards, ticketing and things like that. But feel free to go over to the FAQ section on the website, and if you've got anything, Carol and I hang around for a couple of minutes. If you want to stay on and ask us a question, that's fine. Or if not, then all I'd like to say is thanks very much to SDN for hosting. SDN are a category sponsor at the awards. Thanks, Nicola. And so they've helped us to host the session today, and they're also supporting us with some of the work on the awards as well. So you might hear from them in another way. And if you've got any questions, like I say, you can just pop them in the chat, and we'll love to hear from you. But thanks for coming along this morning. Thank you.
That's great.
Not sure we'll get any. Everyone's. See, they've a great sign. Everyone knows what they're doing, so that's good. Thanks, Michelle and Steve and Jill. Lovely to see you all. And Rachel. See the names, see who's in there. Nicola. She's gone. Amanda and Heather, I can see you're still on. Just want to check in and see if you have any questions in particular. I think that's it.